LegendFire Podcast. I should hold up the screen a little bit longer. When I ordered this off Etsy, I thought it was actually one that had like a hinge point where I could like make the actual clapping sound. It's not. It's all like solidified. Like.
I suppose you could snap it only once.
I could. I actually thought about getting like a small saw or what do you call those? Was it like a really small saw, a cutting tool, and just cutting the very edge of it, so I could actually just physically do it myself. But welcome everyone to the second episode of World Building with Caulder for the LegendFire Podcast. And because the first one was longer than I thought it would be, which was great, this one's going to be a bit more digestible, I think, more time sensitive. There's some topics I thought I could go over a little bit more again, and just a couple other questions for more world building that I find are fun to talk about, and that can help you in how you world build in your projects, how you think about it, and in ways to get inspired by that kind of stuff. We ended the first episode on talking about what video games we like that have some good world building in them. And we were bringing up a few of them, and for those that I think I wanted to briefly touch on those one more time before I have some fresh questions, is that, actually I didn't mention this one, was BioShock has some very fascinating world building in it, and this is actually the collection of 1, 2, and Infinite, and it's very, sometimes the ideas themselves may be controversial if you're really digging into them, but the quality of the world building in those games is just astonishing. The first game is pretty notable for that. And then a bit different thing, but Marvel Spider-Man has a lot of little tidbits of world building as you're going through the world, and it's really cool just to see how these characters are interacting with the overall conflict. And how much J. Jonah Jameson will scream at you to read the Daily Bugle, and how you kind of have to do it just to make him shut up. But there's that, and then the little bits of MJ and Spider-Man's relationship, how I think those are dabbled around in audio files, I thought. There's quite a bit in there that I think made for some pretty cool world building. This is the sequel to one I really like, is that the Horizon games. Zero Dawn, Forbidden West. Those to me have some very fascinating backstory from how the world came to be, and the backstory in the games themselves. Those are pretty cool. And then I think I wanted to also bring up for books. I'm not sure if any of you guys have read these, but the Forerunner Trilogy in Halo has a lot of very, very deep world building in them. They go over so many cool things about the Forerunner Flood War, I believe it is, the Forerunner Empire at its peak, and then the creation of the Halo rings and the arcs. I got that. I'm guessing a few people have read it. One of Brandon Sanderson's secret projects has some pretty cool concepts in it. Tress of the Emerald Sea. If you guys have read it, you have instead of water that you sail a boat on, you have these fine particles, like these fine-grained particles that Tress sails on. And he got this idea because he likes science, and he thought it was interesting to have particles as waves. But when you shoot them with water or something else, they explode, but in giant flowers, and they can encapsulate you and trap you. It can be kind of scary, but beautiful at the same time. And if you've read that, this book has some intriguing world building ideas. But I just realized I skipped my introductions over Caulder. So, Caulder, can you reintroduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, I am Caulder Melhaire, aka Finborg. Find me over working in the LegendFire forums most times.
And I'll be pinning that in the description for this video too. And I'm Matthew Birdsell, aka HD Simplicity. I'm also on the LegendFire forums, though not as active as some of the other ones are. my YouTube channel obviously has my name and my YouTube handle, and you can find me on Xbox as HD Simplicity, on Discord as that, and MatthewBirdsell.net is my website portfolio with the portfolio that I have for video games and for novels. So this is going to be a little bit more about world building until I think we've covered quite a bit for a couple episodes, and then you guys can let us know what you think. So this is going to be kind of a couple of these are going to be, I find, awkwardly worded. These came to mind today while I was at work. I'm like, I'm going to see how this sounds when I say it. If you were a character in a book or a game, what world building do you think they would enjoy seeing? That makes enough sense. It's so convoluted. It's such an unusual question. I realize I'm still gonna ask him anyways. Like, what if you were a character in a book? You got on the audience. You can also fill in this one. If you were a character in a book or a video game, what kind of world building would that character want to see? That you might also like.
This might say it would depend on the character. What
you basically have to get the character. You have to get important to them. What kind of get into their head and be like, well, maybe they would like to see a restaurant that sells something really weird, like these joke toys, or sells or comes across some like street vendor that sells these incredible ice creams that you wanna have. I guess in the kind of world that you're building, that would be kind of fun to think about. Like, has that ever crossed your mind?
Or like the ability to see old history, old architecture, old buildings, old landforms and stuff, maybe. So
you're a character in the fantasy world that you've made, and your character wants to see old history. So how would they just go read books in a big old stone library, or would they have some kind of magical system where they can actually see visions of the past and say, "Ooh, that was cool"?
Why not both?
Why not both? Actually, that's true.
Why not a book that they can project onto?
That'd be so cool, honestly. That's like science fiction / science fantasy. Projecting a book onto a wall, instead of a caved art, just like, here's a holographic book, and I'm gonna use not my wand, but my magic device, and just check out some old stuff. But that device has to have access to the old history. So it's like, I'm gonna go to the library, find this book, and then I'm going to study it for plot reasons. It's a weird question, but I'm like, I don't care. I'm gonna see how this sounds. That's a cool way to put it. I don't know if I've done that maybe in my book. I don't think I've actually done that in the novel I'm working on. Like I mentioned in the previous episode to our audience that in Project Alexis, the space opera that I'm writing, the first chapter has a moment where Alexis is sitting on her couch at home reading a medical journal, an Irish medical journal, and I'm not going to say why for plot reasons, but it's supposed to foreshadow something. And I think it wasn't even my idea to begin with. It was my roommate's idea. I thought, that's a cool idea. Let's have her have a big large watch device, and she, using the mechanics on it, activates it, generates the holographic file of this magazine, and she can flip through it with her finger, or scroll up and down and read that. And that comes after. This will kind of spoil it. The opening chapter is partially a action scene that doesn't end well for certain people. But what else would she want to do? So you would want to. How often do you actually do that for your own characters, Caulder? You think about what the character would want to see. Do you just kind of force them to think what you want to think? Like, you're gonna see that. Because I'm the writer.
You do what I say.
You do what I say. Or you could interview them, I guess, and kind of think about what they would want to know. Because then it might help you with their character arc, their personalities, maybe, what they notice. Okay.
I guess I do have a similar thing in my novel. Because they have the sort of like a pilgrimage that they go on. Since magic isn't really a thing anymore, but they still go on the old pilgrimage to kind of see the sights, walk the path, kind kind of try and glean some of the magical understanding that their ancestors did, even though it's not going to give them magic, but they still go and walk because it's kind of a way of you connect their history.
That's kind of cool, actually. Yeah, I mean, that's a way to do it. I'm looking down at my notes, by the way, guys. Don't think I'm looking off to the side because I'm being weird. I am weird anyways. So, another question is, this is kind of related to that question. Any moment where a character or in-world item, or maybe like someone saying something like an announcement, kind of displays awareness of those world-building details and it impresses you? That's more like for a video game, honestly. Does that even make any sense when I think about it? Like a dialogue bark or an offhanded comment that reveals something about the world. You're like, oh, I didn't know about that. I think RPGs do that quite a bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can think of a few. I was gonna say Prison did it a couple of times.
I've heard about
There's stuff that they just randomly mention. It's like, oh, that's an interesting little tidbit about the world that I hadn't considered.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of cool if the writers will throw those little barks at the characters, and then you'd be like, whoa, that's neat that they actually say that, and that they're kind of it further invests you into the world. Whereas if you see that in a book, it's like it's part of the writing anyways. It's not really an offhand thing. No, that's not true. It could be if if a character's walking through like a hallway, and they hear some offhanded comment saying, "Hey, this thing closes at this time of the day. We should go there for a dessert." And you're like, he overheard, and that was the thing that she was actually needing to go to. So good thing she was paying attention to that. Maybe that could be a little bit of world building to direct a character's plot in a way. Yeah, it's another convoluted question. He kind of is. So sorry about that. What are some jumping off points for creating your own cultures, your own economics, social system, religions? What do you start with?
The first thing that comes to mind is clothing. I don't know why.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I think because in a novel project, one of the first things that I started with was the cultures, the races of people that I wanted, and it started with seeing like different cultural fashions. Being like, oh, I kind of want to take, not I want to say like steal it, but like take the reasons why they have this kind of clothing or this kind of adornment, and find a way to kind of parallel story in the world. Yeah,
fashion can be one. Like, why is this person wearing a thick overcoat? Because they might be a detective, or why did this like holographic screen pop up in front of their eyes? Because they're a police officer and they have this cool like eyepiece over. There's that. So you can like think about that and you think, okay, that's a place I need to develop, and write down like notes of like, is this a police officer of like one kind? Is that like this is what their sergeant wears, and this police officer, this police force is well off, they're well provided for, which means the economics of the city might be pretty good. They're not really, either they're not poor or everyone's thriving, and then you can kind of hint at the state of the world based off that kind of detail. Okay. Would that apply to books just as well? Or anything?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the first ones I did was one of the races actually wears like a shawl that they have over their face, but they only wear it when they're not in their homeland. And it's because in their homeland there's no like plants or pollen or anything. So when they venture out, they get horrible allergies. So they have this shawl that they wear to like kind of block it out.
Oh, instead of being like in danger, or instead of blocking them from sand. Okay, that's interesting. I was watching a Mission Impossible. Was it Dead Reckoning, Part 1? I thought it was. Yeah. It was Dead Reckoning Part 1. Like a few weeks ago, before the finale just came out. And there's a scene where Rebecca Ferguson's character is wearing I don't think, is it a shawl? It's some kind of, you wear in the Middle East to protect your face from sand and being blasted into your mouth, and kind of, but it's over her head too. But yeah, it's a Middle Eastern adornment. It's pretty common over there. But she was also having I think shooting glasses on, so she can snipe the assassins who are trying to kill her. So it's like, okay, she's wearing that because there's a good reason for it. She's in trouble. She's trying to hide from these bad guys, and she's got a sniper rifle propped up on a tripod, and no one's gonna know it's her until she either takes her glasses off or does a face reveal, and does that. It's kind of relating to what you were saying, kind of. I thought, but do you like to take real world things and then use those as inspiration for world building, like a real world like economics, real world landscapes, or do you like them all on your own?
No, I like to have a little jumping off point from. So I feel like if you're basing it on something that you already know, and then you kind of distort it from there. Whereas a lot of times I feel like if I kind of come up with everything separately, it loses cohesion. You start getting things that contradict each other.
Yeah, because if you don't have a cohesion, then none of it makes sense. I mean, that goes for any form of creative writing. You need to have things make sense, and then if it doesn't, you're in trouble. But I mean, maybe it doesn't make sense. It's not cohesive at first, but the more you think about it, you can bring these separate ideas into one thing, and then use that for a project you're working on.
I mean, I don't agree with it exactly either. I mean, it's just sometimes I think it's easier to start with a fully stable system that you know, and then you can distort it into another stable system from there.
That's kind of like what I like to do, is take a real thing and twist it or tweak it in a way that seems original to me. To do it from the ground up that's a lot of work. But it's fun. I mean, I haven't really done that much yet of that. I think I take real world things and just change the names. But that's what I've done before. Like, instead of dollar bills, I have credits. But Star Wars already did that. So it's like, but also many other science fiction stories take the term credits for their monetary denominations and stuff. Like Star Wars does it, and I think other ones like Republic credits are no good out here. I need something more real. That's all I've got is credits. That's all I can take, or all I can give. What was that question? Let's see. Do you want world building? Do you think for others do you think world building should be the same for each book or game or film, or can it be changed if the plot needs it as a series progresses? Do you think that writers should do that or not?
I think certain things can be changed. There's one. The example that comes to mind is the anime Forerunner. Okay. It's like one of my favorite shows because it does something that not a lot of art in general does, which is it has a time skip, but it actively shows the time skip. So you've got the old period, and then I forget how far in the future it is, but say 100 years is where it's currently set, and it's never. It's a little explicitly stated, but it's never really straight up said. But you can see just by looking at the details of the buildings and the vehicles and even the clothing and stuff that they wear, the world has progressed 100 years, and it's very clear. It's not just I feel like a lot of times, especially with sort of medieval settings, people just kind of lump it all into one big thing.
Yeah,
and it's this is just all medieval. And it's no, there were distinct sections.
Yeah, there were. I mean,
that's what about Freeruns. It shows that it's actually the world is actually building and growing since you've seen it. It's
interesting. For medieval world building, then does I guess in real life, didn't things progress pretty slowly in history until the revolutions came around? I thought it took a long time for things to actually get figured out before steam power came around or before other advancements came. Is that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so things came around pretty slow back then. I mean, medicines especially. Medicines did construction. I think how things were constructed was a while. I mean, it took 100 plus years to build a castle. Yeah. I think the Notre Dame took that long, or other things did. And now we can do that in a few years at most.
Yeah.
The renovation was, not the whole thing. But yeah, things progressed quite a bit slower back then. What else was I gonna ask you? That actually was the last, and a few more questions that I was thinking about talking about. What other things were there any things that you wanted to bring up anymore, or that we kind of forgot?
I did have a world-building question.
What was that?
I did have a world-building question of my own.
Yeah. Throw it at me.
To ask.
Or throw it at the audience. Yeah.
This is something that I wonder in my own thing. A lot of times when you read fantasy, there's a lot of overlap in terms of names for things and language, sometimes even like slurs and oaths and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you consider to be acceptable? Can they ride horses? Horses maybe don't exist.
Before they copy and paste things, or is that what you're thinking? So they don't copy and paste stuff, or is it because? Do you think you have
to come up with original names for everything, or is it okay to sometimes just be like, you know what, I'm gonna take everyone knows what a horse is. We're just gonna put a horse and call it a horse.
Right. Like, what else could you possibly call a horse? You could go into fantasy name generator and just take one of their random names for an animal, and then you kind of take like one and like half of this, half of that, and just plug it together. I think I have done that before, but for like company names, I have done that because I think it's fun to combine more like sounding words together like that. So, and I just had another brain fart. Where was my thought at? Yeah, like, do you take the like animal names, basic ones from fantasy, and just kind of keep them, or do you change what they are? Like Thestrals in Harry Potter, those are like bony horses, or the hippogriffs. That's kind of I think the hippogriff is based off of the Greek creature.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's actually.
That's actual Greek mythology. Whereas the Thestrals, I don't know where that came out. Where that actually came from. It's like a very thin horse with a weird facial skeleton, and it has big wings. So I'm like, I wonder where that came from. It resembles a horse, so there's that. But yeah, in the audience, let us know kind of the things that you like to do. If you like to take real world things and just kind of apply them to every book, like with animals or with like clothing or weaponry, or do you like to kind of make up names for those to really, really enhance the quality of your world building? And if there's any other comments you wanted to make to anything that we talked about in this episode, feel free to mention those down below in those comments. And to like this, and if you want to subscribe, this will be on my channel. And I'm not sure how many of these videos I'll make for all in total. I think it's like 6 total videos for all these topics we're going to be doing, but I'm not sure what will. It remains to be seen how many other topics we'll do over time. But please subscribe for this one and the next few that we have. The next few are going to be about juggling family and writing with a different guest of ours, and and historical fiction, how you would write it, how you create it, world building. That one's going to be a pretty broad topic, so we're going to try to keep things more focused on that one. And then I guess we'll end with where can we find you, and what are you reading, watching, and playing? I think we mentioned that the first episode, but unless you want to just repeat what you said the first time around.
I am pretty much exclusively at the LegendFire forums. Currently reading Nevernight by Jay Kristoff and Geisha of Gion by Minako Iwasaki. And then I'm working on right now. I'm working on my novel project again, finally, after like a 2-year break. Trying to get back into that.
Wow.
And a quirky little Midwestern Gothic horror called Angels in the Corn.
Angels in the Corn? That's a cool name. Angels in the Corn. I like that name. Interesting. Yeah, sometimes we all need breaks from our books. I mean, I've taken breaks from mine, more like short breaks, and then I'll get back to mine. But I try to work on mine here and there, a little bit, just to make sure I can get it done. But sometimes life happens, and we can't always do that. And writers that watch this, you would know, sometimes we just can't always work on projects we want to work on. We need breaks. I mean, creativity burns us out, even though we love it, even though we love doing it. For me, you can find me on the LegendFire forums, HD Simplicity. You can see me on my website, which I'll link in the description, just matthewbirdzell.net. You'll see the indie video games I've worked on and a few of the blog posts I have that are writing updates for the book I'm working on, called Project Alexis, named after my protagonist. And I'm also on Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam. I mean, I don't always play with people these days, but it's nice to sometimes, as HD Simplicity. Discord, HD Simplicity, the handle is I Have a Jar of Dirt. If you can tell me where that movie that reference is from, you get brownie points. I'll say the line, I have a jar of dirt, and guess what's inside it? I just gave it away, but that's where I got that from, because it's a funny scene. And then I think that's it for my shameless plugs. The next episodes that we're going to be having, the next subjects are going to be, I already mentioned them earlier, didn't I? Juggling writing and family, pretty intriguing one, I think. And then historical fiction, a big old topic with lots of, probably lots of stuff to talk about. So we're excited to be doing that. Thank you for coming to the LegendFire Podcast for our next video. Until then, have yourself a great evening, night, or wherever you are, and we will see you next one. Comment, like, subscribe if you want. No pressure. And, yeah. Bye-bye.